In this next section, we're going to talk about the law of cosines. And again, just like with the law of sines, we're going to look at graphs that are not right triangles, meaning we do not have the Pythagorean theorem. So we have no Pythagorean theorem. So no Pythagorean theorem. But what we do have is we will still have the law of sines, and now we're going to have a new tool called the law of cosines. And just like the law of sines had sine in it, the law of cosines is going to have cosine in it. It's going to be for two very specific cases. So the law of cosines here is going to be either used when you have all three sides of a non-right triangle and you're trying to find one of the angles. So you'll have all three sides, and then that will let you find one angle. Or you could have a side angle and a side, and we're going to word this in such a way where it says side angle side, which literally means that we have two sides and the angle in between them. The law of sines required that we had either two angles and a side that actually matched up with one of the angles, or two sides and one angle that matched up with one of the two sides you have. This is the reverse. You have two sides and the angle in between them, so the angle doesn't match up with either of the two sides you have. That is what the law of cosines is going to be used for. These two very specific cases. Either you have all three sides, or you have two sides and the angle in between them, meaning the angle that doesn't have anything to do with the two sides. So that's what the formulas say. And what you'll notice is the formulas actually do look very similar. There will be three formulas, look very similar to the Pythagorean theorem. Also, another thing with the formulas is to notice whichever side you start out with on the one side on the left is the angle you'll have on the right. So that's always going to be a pattern. Whatever side you have on the left will match up with the angle that's on the right. And what it says is you take your first side squared equals your other two sides squared minus 2 times those same two sides again, times the cosine of your angle that matches up with the side that you started out with on the other side. So you can start out with any side you want, A, B, or C, but that's then going to match up on the other side with whatever angle you're going to be using in your law of cosines. And you need to pick your version of the formula that you're going to use accordingly. And we'll look at a couple of examples because I know this seems confusing. What's nice about the law of cosines is that it's a good tool, and you should never have to use it more than once. Notice that these three formulas are much more complicated than the law of sines. So we don't want to use the law of cosines unless we have to. However, it does work, and you should never have to use it more than once. Never should you have to use it more than once. Never. And again, remember, the reason why we've come up with these the two tools, the law of cosines and the law of sines, is because you do not have a right triangle, which again means you do not and cannot use the Pythagorean theorem because you do not have a right triangle. So the best thing that we can do is start out with an example. Let's start out with this first one in A and see what happens. So we've got our non-right triangle on this next one, because when they say you just have a triangle, you have to assume it's not a right triangle. So they do give us some information. They give us that side A is 5.